In the dead of night, under a moonless sky in the heart of Chicago's shadowy underbelly, two elderly souls, Samuel and Alara Washington, a devoted black couple in their 80s, were brutally silenced by the cold grip of the Mafia, their humble home turned into a slaughterhouse of shattered dreams and spilled blood, all because they dared to stand against a loan shark's extortion. But little did those ruthless killers know, their son, Marcus Washington, a ghost from the elite shadows of Delta Force, was about to unleash a storm of vengeance that would tear through the criminal empire like a hurricane of justice and retribution. Stick around, because this tale of fury and redemption will grip you tighter than a vice. If you're hooked already, smash that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Join our community of thrill seekers from the USA and UK who crave edge-of-your-seat stories like this one, because missing the next twist could be your biggest regret. Subscribe today and let's dive into the chaos together. The story unfolded in the gritty streets of Chicago, where the wind howled like a banshee through the towering skyscrapers, carrying whispers of corruption and crime that had long infested the city like a plague. Samuel and Alara Washington had lived a quiet life in their modest brownstone on the South Side, a neighborhood where hope flickered like a dying bulb amidst the encroaching darkness of poverty and gang violence. Samuel, a retired factory worker with hands calloused from decades of labor, and Alara, a former schoolteacher whose eyes still sparkled with the wisdom of countless lessons imparted, had raised their only son, Marcus, with unyielding love and discipline. They were pillars of their community, known for their Sunday barbecues that brought neighbors together and their quiet advocacy against the local thugs who preyed on the vulnerable. But times had grown hard. Samuel's pension barely covered the bills, and when a medical emergency struck Alara, a sudden heart scare that required expensive treatments, they turned to what seemed like a lifeline: a loan from Vito Moretti, the notorious underboss of the Lombardi crime family. Vito's operation was a web of deceit, ensnaring the desperate with sky-high interest rates that turned small debts into insurmountable mountains. The Washingtons borrowed $5,000, promising to pay it back in installments, but Vito's goons inflated the debt with hidden fees, demanding $10,000 within months. Samuel refused to pay the extortion, standing tall at a community meeting where he called out the Mafia's grip on the neighborhood, his voice booming with the fire of a man who had marched for civil rights in the 60s. "We won't bow to these shadows no more," he declared, unaware that his words had sealed their fate. That fateful night, as rain pounded the windows like accusatory fists, three masked men burst through the front door. They were Vito's enforcers: Tony, the Bull; Rossi, a hulking brute with a scar across his cheek from a botched hit; Frankie, Slick, Marino, a wiry sniper with a penchant for cruel taunts; and Gino, Kid, Lombardi, the young nephew of the family boss, eager to prove his mettle. They dragged Samuel from his armchair, where he was reading his worn Bible, and pistol-whipped him until blood streamed down his face. Alara screamed from the kitchen, clutching her rosary, but Gino silenced her with a savage kick to the ribs. "You should have paid up, old man," Tony growled, his voice a gravelly rumble as he leveled a silenced pistol at Samuel's head. The shots echoed softly, two in Samuel's chest, one in Alara's as she crawled toward her husband, her last words a whispered prayer for their son. The killers ransacked the house for any valuables, laughing about the easy cleanup, then vanished into the night, leaving behind a scene that would haunt the detectives called to the crime scene hours later. Unbeknownst to them, Marcus Washington was no ordinary son. At 45, he was a legend in the shadows of special operations, a former Delta Force commander who had led covert missions in Afghanistan, Iraq, and beyond, raids that dismantled terrorist cells, extracted hostages from hellholes, and left no trace. Marcus had retired 5 years ago, scarred by the loss of comrades and the moral weight of endless war, seeking solace in a quiet life as a security consultant in Virginia. But the call from the Chicago PD shattered his world. "Mr. Washington, I'm sorry to inform you." His voice steady but his heart fracturing, Marcus boarded the first flight home, arriving to a city that felt alien, the air thick with the stench of betrayal. At the morgue, seeing his parents' bodies, Samuel's dignified face marred by bruises, Alara's gentle hands cold and still, ignited a fire in him that no enemy had ever quenched. He buried them in a small ceremony, attended by old friends and neighbors who whispered condolences, but Marcus's mind was already plotting. He knew this wasn't random. A quick hack into the PD's database, using skills honed in Delta's cyber warfare training, revealed the Mafia's fingerprints, though the cops were too corrupt or scared to pursue it. Marcus donned his old gear, stashed in a storage unit: tactical vest, suppressed weapons, night vision goggles, and a burner phone. His first move was reconnaissance. Posing as a grieving relative, he infiltrated a Lombardi hangout, a dingy bar called the Red Olive, where wise guys boasted over whiskey. Eavesdropping, he learned of Vito's involvement and the names of the killers. Twist 1. As Marcus tailed Tony Rossi to a warehouse on the outskirts, he discovered something shocking. Tony wasn't just a thug, he was an undercover FBI agent, embedded deep in the Lombardi family for years, feeding intel to dismantle the syndicate from within. Marcus confronted him in the shadows, knife to throat. "Why didn't you stop them?" Marcus hissed. Tony, sweating, confessed, "I couldn't blow my cover. Your folks were collateral, but I got evidence, recordings of Vito ordering the hit." Reluctantly, Marcus allied with Tony, using his insider access to map the family's operations, drug dens, money laundering fronts, and Vito's fortified mansion in the suburbs. But trust was fragile. Marcus sensed Tony's divided loyalties, torn between justice and survival. The vengeance began methodically. Marcus struck at Gino first, the hot-headed kid, ambushing him during a late-night drive. With Delta precision, he forced Gino's car off the road into a ditch, zip-tying him and interrogating under the beam of headlights. "Who gave the order?" Marcus demanded, his voice a lethal calm. Gino spat defiance, but after a few calculated blows, nothing fatal, just enough to break spirit, he cracked, "Vito." But it was bigger. Your old man saw something he shouldn't. Twist 2. Samuel hadn't just refused payment. During a neighborhood watch, he'd witnessed a Lombardi hit on a rival gang leader and reported it anonymously, but the Mafia traced it back. Gino's confession led Marcus to a hidden ledger in Vito's safe, detailing bribes to city officials, including the police chief. As Marcus infiltrated Vito's mansion under cover of night, scaling walls like a phantom, he neutralized guards with silenced tranq darts, non-lethal, for now, honoring his parents' pacifist leanings despite his rage. Inside, he found Vito in his study, counting cash. But as Marcus raised his gun, Vito smirked. "You think you're the hero, son? Your parents weren't saints." Twist 3. Vito revealed a bombshell. Samuel had once been involved in the Mafia decades ago, running numbers as a young man to escape poverty, before turning straight and testifying against a low-level boss, which earned him enemies. Alara knew and forgave, but the grudge lingered. Killing them was payback, Vito sneered. Enraged but doubting, Marcus spared Vito momentarily, forcing him to call a family meeting. There, in a grand hall filled with capos, Marcus unleashed hell, flashbangs disoriented, then precise shots took down key players. Frankie Marino fell first, sniped from afar. Gino, released as bait, turned traitor in fear, shooting his own uncle. Chaos erupted, gunfire, screams, as Marcus picked them off like targets on a range. But Twist 4. Tony betrayed him, revealing himself as a double agent, bought by the Lombardis for a bigger cut. In the melee, Tony shot at Marcus, grazing his shoulder. "Sorry, kid, survival of the fittest," Tony yelled. Marcus countered with a Delta takedown, disarming and cuffing him for the feds. Vito, cornered, begged for mercy. "I'll give you everything, names, accounts." But Marcus, eyes cold as steel, whispered, "This is for mom and dad," and delivered justice with a single shot. As sirens wailed, Marcus vanished, leaving evidence for honest cops. Weeks later, the Lombardi Empire crumbled under federal raids, sparked by anonymous tips. Marcus returned to Virginia, haunted but healed, planting a tree in his yard for his parents, a symbol of roots unbroken. Yet in the quiet, he wondered if vengeance truly mended the soul, or if it merely forged a new chain. The city breathed easier, but shadows lingered, whispering that some ghosts never rest. And in a final twist, a letter arrived from an unknown sender. "Your father had a secret son, your half-brother, in the Mafia. He's coming for you." The cycle threatened to continue, but Marcus, ever the warrior, prepared for war once more.